Right now, at this very moment, you're experiencing something profoundly significant. The fact that you found this video at this precise point in your financial journey is far from random chance. When information that speaks directly to your deepest financial struggles appears before you, it's not coincidence, but cosmic orchestration. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth, while others struggle despite working twice as hard? What if I told you that the difference isn't luck, connections, or even intelligence, but rather an ancient principle that's been hidden from the masses for centuries? Has this ever happened to you? You're facing a challenge that seems insurmountable, and suddenly, as if by magic, the exact solution appears before you in the most unexpected way. That's because the universe operates on principles most people never fully comprehend. It delivers transformational knowledge precisely when your soul is ready to receive it. Not a moment before, not a moment after. The uncomfortable truth is that most people spend their entire lives trapped in financial mediocrity, not because they lack potential, but because they're missing the fundamental understanding of how wealth actually manifests. They follow conventional wisdom, work harder, save more, invest wisely, yet something essential remains missing from the equation. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from. And today, it's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Your presence here today isn't random, it's divinely orchestrated. Think about the sequence of events that led you to this moment. Perhaps you've been experiencing unusual synchronicities lately, seeing repeated number patterns, or feeling an inexplicable urge to seek deeper knowledge about wealth creation. These are cosmic signposts guiding you toward this revelation. The universe has deliberately aligned you with these wealth principles because you've demonstrated readiness to transcend your financial limitations. Something within you has shifted, creating the perfect receptive state for what you're about to learn. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you perceive money and its relationship to your consciousness. For generations, a select few have understood that financial abundance follows universal laws as reliable as gravity. They've quietly applied these principles to create fortunes while the masses remained oblivious to the true source of their success. Today, that veil of secrecy lifts for you. Your intuition brought you here because it recognizes truth before your conscious mind can articulate it. That subtle inner knowing, that feeling that something profound awaits you in this message, is your higher self acknowledging the alignment between what you need right now and what you're about to receive. What if everything you've been taught about wealth creation has been fundamentally incomplete? What if the true path to abundance isn't about strategies and tactics, but about aligning yourself with the cosmic currents that naturally flow toward prosperity? If these wealth principles resonated with you, hit that subscribe button now to join thousands of others on this prosperity journey. Each video builds on these foundational concepts to help you create lasting financial transformation. What most people never realize is that behind the scenes of your life operates a mysterious intelligence, an invisible force that guides profound financial wisdom to precisely the individuals prepared to implement it. This force isn't random or capricious, it's remarkably precise, recognizing your readiness even before your conscious mind has fully acknowledged it. Think about the moments in your life when unexpected guidance appeared just as you faced a critical decision. That wasn't coincidence. It was this intelligent force responding to your evolving consciousness. The ancient masters understood this principle intimately, recognizing that knowledge itself possesses awareness, seeking out those whose vibrational frequency has reached alignment with its transformative power. Your journey to this revelation has been meticulously orchestrated through a sequence of events that may have seemed random, but were actually carefully designed stepping stones. Every financial challenge, every setback, every frustration you've experienced has been secretly preparing you for this pivotal moment of transformation. The most fascinating aspect of this hidden truth is that it operates completely independently of your belief in it. Just as gravity functions whether you acknowledge it or not, this force continues guiding life-changing wisdom toward you based solely on your readiness to receive it. Your presence here now is the living proof that this mechanism is already at work in your life. For years, perhaps decades, you've gathered financial knowledge that never quite clicked into place. You've read books, attended seminars, implemented strategies, yet something essential remained missing from the equation. That's because the final transformative piece exists beyond the realm of conventional wisdom. It isn't found in mainstream financial advice or trending investment strategies. This missing element resides in ancient wisdom traditions that have preserved the authentic science of wealth creation across millennia. While modern approaches focus almost exclusively on external tactics, these timeless teachings understand that true abundance begins with internal alignment, a profound shift in your relationship with the very concept of wealth itself. Behind every great fortune throughout history has operated this fundamental principle that most never discover. It's as if the wealthiest individuals throughout time have accessed a different operating system, one that automatically generates prosperity through alignment with universal laws rather than through struggle and strain. The mindset revelations you're about to experience may initially challenge your existing beliefs about how money actually works. That's natural and expected. Genuine transformation often begins with a necessary disruption of limiting perspectives that have unconsciously shaped your financial reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens in your neurology when you finally grasp this missing piece. Your brain has been conditioned through years of programming to interpret financial reality through specific neural pathways. These established patterns have created your current results with mathematical precision, but the journey we're on together involves rewiring these fundamental connections, creating entirely new possibilities that were literally inconceivable through your previous framework. Consider this: what if your financial struggles weren't actually about money at all? What if they were merely the visible symptoms of an invisible misalignment with prosperity consciousness? This perspective shift represents the beginning of a profound journey from surface-level financial strategies to the deeper dimensions where wealth is actually generated. The impact of this revelation extends far beyond your bank account. As your relationship with abundance transforms, every aspect of your life experiences a corresponding elevation. Relationships improve, creative expression expands, and your capacity to contribute meaningfully to others naturally increases. When you look behind the scenes of your past financial experiences, you'll begin recognizing patterns that were invisible before, moments when this force attempted to guide you toward greater prosperity, but perhaps you weren't yet ready to receive its wisdom. Those missed opportunities weren't failures, but necessary stages in your development, preparing you for this precise moment of recognition. Write in the comments, "I recognize this force at work in my life," if you've experienced those unexplainable moments when exactly the right information arrived at precisely the moment you needed it most. The uncomfortable truth that most financial experts will never tell you is that living paycheck to paycheck fundamentally contradicts your natural birthright. This statement might seem bold, perhaps even controversial, but the evidence surrounds us in the natural world. Look at how the universe operates, with absolute abundance at every level. From the countless stars scattered across infinite space to the miraculous abundance of a single seed producing thousands more, scarcity exists nowhere in nature except where artificial limitations have been imposed. Your current financial situation, no matter how challenging it might appear, is merely a temporary condition, not your permanent reality. This distinction is crucial for the inner transformation we're exploring together. When you internalize this profound truth, something remarkable begins happening within your consciousness. The weight of financial anxiety starts lifting because you recognize it as a transient experience rather than a fixed identity. This revelation often triggers a profound awakening moment. Many who've walked this path before you describe it as finally removing glasses that had been distorting their perception of reality. Suddenly, opportunities that were always present but previously invisible come into crystal clear focus. The journey from survival to prosperity consciousness represents one of the most significant transformations a human being can undergo. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a revolutionary understanding about how your mind actually functions in relation to wealth. The human mind possesses extraordinary capabilities that most people never fully activate, specifically its innate design as a powerful wealth magnet when properly programmed. This isn't metaphorical language, but a precise description of neurological and quantum mechanics that cutting-edge researchers are only beginning to understand. When you align your thought patterns with universal laws governing abundance, your mind begins naturally drawing prosperity toward you with scientific precision. This mechanism operates automatically, requiring no conscious effort once the initial reprogramming has occurred. It's similar to how your heart beats or your lungs breathe without deliberate attention. Your properly aligned wealth consciousness simply attracts compatible opportunities by its very nature. The implications of this hidden truth extend far beyond basic financial improvement. We're discussing a fundamental shift in your relationship with reality itself, a profound recalibration that impacts every dimension of your existence. This isn't merely about accumulating money, but about restoring your natural state of abundance across all life domains. The most fascinating aspect of this mindset revolution is how it transforms your decision-making process. When operating from scarcity consciousness, decisions originate from fear, limitation, and self-protection. But abundance consciousness generates choices from an entirely different source: creativity, expansion, and inspired action. These two decision pathways lead to dramatically different outcomes, despite appearing similar on the surface. Consider the revelation that your current financial condition represents nothing more than the perfect mathematical result of your previous thought patterns. This understanding removes any element of randomness, bad luck, or victimhood from your financial story. Instead, it places the power of transformation squarely in your hands through the deliberate reprogramming of your mental patterns. This journey requires honesty about a particularly uncomfortable truth. Many people unconsciously derive identity and meaning from their financial struggles. Their stories of hardship have become so intertwined with their sense of self that prosperity feels like a threat to their very identity. Breaking this attachment represents one of the most profound aspects of the transformation we're exploring together. Now, I want to explore even more deeply how this prosperity consciousness becomes installed at the neurological level. Your brain contains neural pathways, physical connections between cells that have been shaped by years of financial conditioning. These pathways determine how you automatically interpret and respond to money situations. The revolutionary understanding is that these pathways aren't fixed, but remarkably plastic, capable of dramatic reorganization through specific mental practices that literally rewire your prosperity circuitry. This neurological revolution doesn't happen through wishful thinking or vague affirmations. It requires precise reprogramming techniques that address both your conscious and subconscious relationship with wealth. The impact of this recalibration extends far beyond your bank balance. It fundamentally alters how opportunity, value, and possibility appear in your perceptual field. If you've ever experienced that sudden flash of recognition when a profound truth resonates at the deepest level of your being, write in the comments, "My prosperity awakening has begun." What's truly fascinating about this ancient financial wisdom is that it seems to possess an intelligence of its own, an uncanny ability to find precisely those individuals who are ready to receive it. This phenomenon has been observed throughout history, where transformative knowledge appears to operate on entirely different frequencies than the popular financial advice circulating in mainstream channels. While conventional wisdom travels along predictable paths of mass distribution, this deeper understanding moves with remarkable precision, actively seeking minds that have reached the necessary level of preparation. This selective transmission explains why two people can encounter the same information yet experience dramatically different results. One person reads the words but perceives nothing beyond surface-level concepts, while another undergoes a profound awakening upon encountering the identical material. The difference lies not in the information itself, but in the receiver's state of consciousness, their readiness to recognize and implement these higher truths. Don't let this be the end of your transformation. Subscribe now to continue exploring these life-changing prosperity principles. I'm constantly sharing new insights that build upon everything we've discussed today. Consider this revelation. The universe contains an elegant filtering mechanism that prevents powerful transformative knowledge from reaching those who would misuse or misinterpret it. This protective function operates automatically, ensuring that genuine wealth wisdom finds its way exclusively to individuals prepared to implement it responsibly. This explains why truly revolutionary financial insights rarely become mainstream, despite their extraordinary effectiveness. The journey toward prosperity consciousness involves crossing multiple thresholds of understanding, each opening access to knowledge that remained invisible at previous levels. Each threshold represents a distinct shift in perception that fundamentally alters how you interpret financial reality. The remarkable aspect is that you can't perceive information beyond your current threshold until your consciousness expands to encompass it, like attempting to explain color to someone who has only experienced black and white. Behind the illusion of random chance lies a perfectly orchestrated process of awakening. You're here because you've crossed a crucial threshold that many never reach. This milestone in your journey signifies readiness for revelations that would have seemed incomprehensible at earlier stages of your development. The synchronicity that brought you to this knowledge wasn't coincidental, but precisely calibrated to your evolving consciousness. Now let's explore the most counterintuitive yet powerful principle in this entire framework. Real transformation happens exclusively from the inside out. This understanding directly contradicts conventional approaches that focus almost entirely on manipulating external circumstances without addressing the internal patterns generating those conditions. It explains why most financial strategies ultimately fail despite initial promising results. External financial techniques, budgeting systems, investment strategies, income generation methods inevitably collapse without internal alignment. They represent attempts to change effects without addressing causes. True prosperity emerges only when your internal reality shifts first, creating the necessary foundation for sustainable external transformation. This sequencing is non-negotiable in the authentic science of wealth creation. When your consciousness genuinely shifts, External circumstances naturally reorganize to match your new internal reality with mathematical precision. This isn't magical thinking, but the operation of causality at levels most never observe. Your thought patterns generate electromagnetic frequencies that interact with the quantum field, attracting resonant experiences while repelling incompatible ones. This process occurs automatically, requiring no conscious manipulation once the internal shift has occurred. The revelation that external reality faithfully mirrors internal consciousness challenges our conventional understanding of cause and effect. Most believe that changing external conditions will eventually transform their internal state. More money leading to greater security and happiness. The counterintuitive truth reverses this sequence. Entirely, internal transformation must precede external manifestation, not follow it. This inside-out principle explains why identical strategies produce radically different results for different individuals. Two people can implement the same investment approach, business model, or wealth-building system, yet experience completely opposite outcomes. The determining factor isn't the strategy itself, but the consciousness implementing it. Your results reflect your vibration with unfailing accuracy. Regardless of your tactical approach, the journey of genuine financial transformation requires courage to question deeply ingrained assumptions about how reality actually works. Most people spend their entire lives operating from a fundamental misunderstanding of the relationship between consciousness and manifestation. They exhaust themselves pushing against external conditions without addressing the internal patterns perpetuating those circumstances. When you grasp this principle at the experiential level, not merely intellectually, a profound shift occurs in your relationship with financial challenges. You recognize them not as obstacles to overcome, but as precise feedback revealing your current internal programming. This perspective transforms frustration into fascination as you begin working with universal laws rather than struggling against them. If you've experienced moments where your external reality shifted dramatically after an internal revelation or mindset breakthrough, write in the comments. I've witnessed the inside-out principle in action. Let's consider something that might initially sound provocative. Despite the proliferation of financial education, books, seminars, courses, videos, there remains a fundamental element almost universally missing from conventional wealth teachings. You might have spent years, even decades, studying various financial strategies. Perhaps you've mastered budgeting techniques, investment principles, or business development methods. Yet despite all this accumulated knowledge, the results often remain frustratingly elusive. This missing element isn't another tactical approach or clever technique. It's a profound understanding that wealth manifestation follows universal laws just as reliable and consistent as gravity. This isn't metaphorical language, but a literal description of how prosperity operates within a lawful universe. Just as you wouldn't attempt to defy gravity without understanding its principles, creating sustainable wealth requires alignment with these fundamental laws of manifestation. The revelation that transforms financial understanding completely is that these laws operate with mathematical precision, whether you're aware of them or not. Your current financial situation represents the perfect result of your alignment or misalignment with these principles. Nothing in your economic experience is random, accidental, or disconnected from this causal framework. Every dollar in your possession or absent from it reflects your relationship with these universal laws with extraordinary accuracy. This understanding explains why certain individuals create remarkable wealth despite minimal formal education, while others with advanced financial degrees struggle to escape economic mediocrity. The decisive factor isn't technical knowledge, but alignment with universal principles that govern the manifestation process. This alignment happens primarily at the subconscious level, beyond the reach of intellectual comprehension alone. What's particularly fascinating about this revelation is how it transforms your relationship with financial challenges. When you recognize that difficulties aren't punishments or bad luck, but precise feedback about your alignment with universal laws, frustration dissolves into curiosity. Each obstacle becomes valuable data revealing where your consciousness requires adjustment rather than an enemy to be conquered through force. Now, I want to introduce you to a dimension that exists beyond conventional understanding, a realm where thoughts become tangible reality with astonishing precision. This isn't philosophical speculation, but the frontier where quantum physics intersects with consciousness research. In this space, mental patterns directly create physical circumstances through mechanisms that mainstream science is only beginning to comprehend. This realm operates according to principles radically different from the visible world, of effects that most people exclusively focus on. In this dimension, causation flows from consciousness to manifestation, not the reverse. Your thoughts generate electromagnetic frequencies that interact with the quantum field, organizing particles and circumstances to match your dominant mental patterns. This process occurs continuously, automatically translating your internal state into external conditions. The most revolutionary aspect of this understanding is that your financial reality doesn't merely reflect your conscious intentions, but your complete mental ecosystem, including subconscious patterns, beliefs, and emotional associations with wealth. This explains why affirmations and visualizations often fail to produce sustainable results. They address only the surface level of consciousness, while deeper contradictory programming remains intact. Financial transformation truly begins when you learn to operate skillfully within this causal realm, rather than exclusively focusing on manipulating effects in the material world. This shift in focus represents the fundamental difference between those who create extraordinary prosperity and those who struggle despite implementing identical external strategies. The former understand that external actions must flow from aligned consciousness to generate lasting results. The journey into this dimension requires developing perceptual abilities most never activate. You must learn to observe your own thought patterns with extraordinary clarity, detecting subtle contradictions between conscious intentions and subconscious programming. This heightened awareness allows you to identify and transform limiting patterns before they manifest as financial limitations in your external experience. Consider this profound realization. Every wealthy individual throughout history has, either intuitively or deliberately, accessed this causal realm where reality conforms to consciousness. They may have used different terminology or conceptual frameworks to describe their process, but the underlying mechanism remains identical. They learn to establish resonance between their consciousness and the prosperity they desired to manifest. This understanding transforms wealth creation from an external acquisition process to an internal alignment practice. Rather than pursuing money as something separate from yourself that must be chased and captured, you recognize it as the natural manifestation of properly aligned consciousness. This perspective shift fundamentally alters your relationship with effort, struggle, and the entire manifestation sequence. The liberation in this revelation lies in recognizing that you're no longer at the mercy of external economic conditions, market fluctuations, or circumstances beyond your control. Your financial destiny originates in the realm of cause, your consciousness, rather than the world of effects that merely reflects it. This transfers the power of transformation from external factors to internal alignment, which remains perpetually within your sphere of influence. If you've experienced moments where your thoughts seem to manifest with unusual speed or precision in your financial reality, write in the comments, "I've glimpsed the causal realm." What makes these universal principles particularly become obsolete during market shifts or economic downturns? True wealth creation follows laws that function with perfect consistency regardless of external circumstances. These principles remain equally effective during recessions, inflations, market crashes, or periods of unprecedented prosperity. They operate independently of your current bank balance, credit score, or financial history. This revelation liberates you from the endless cycle of anxiety about economic conditions beyond your control. Most people exist in a perpetual state of worry about interest rates, housing markets, stock fluctuations, or political decisions affecting the economy. They mistakenly believe their financial well-being depends primarily on these external factors rather than their alignment with universal laws that transcend such temporary conditions. Consider the fascinating pattern observable throughout history. During every economic collapse, certain individuals not only survive but dramatically expand their wealth, while masses lose fortunes in market downturns. Others systematically accumulate unprecedented prosperity from identical external conditions. The decisive factor isn't external circumstance, but internal positioning. Alignment with principles that function regardless of economic climate. This understanding explains why attempting to create wealth through constantly adapting to changing economic conditions proves exhausting and ultimately ineffective. It's like trying to navigate by following shifting shadows rather than focusing on the consistent light source casting them. When you align with unchanging universal principles, external conditions lose their power to determine your financial destiny. The most remarkable aspect of these principles is their complete indifference to your personal history, background, education, or current financial situation. They respond exclusively to your present alignment, not your past circumstances. This explains why individuals from the most challenging backgrounds sometimes create extraordinary wealth, while those with every advantage struggle financially. The universal laws recognize only alignment, not history or circumstance. Now, I want to reveal something that might initially seem almost too simple to be significant, yet represents the most powerful financial principle hiding in plain sight throughout your entire life. This fundamental truth has been operating invisibly behind all successful wealth creation throughout human history, functioning whether recognized or not, whether respected or ignored. This wealth secret can be stated simply yet contains depths that few ever fully explore. Consciousness creates before action implements. Your awareness of possibilities literally precedes and determines which opportunities appear in your experience. This principle operates continuously, automatically translating your dominant mental patterns into corresponding external circumstances with mathematical precision. What makes this principle particularly challenging to recognize is its complete integration into your moment-by-moment experience. Like water to a fish, it surrounds you so completely that perceiving it requires extraordinary perspective shift. You've been utilizing this principle, either constructively or destructively, throughout your entire life without consciously recognizing its operation. Consider the revelation that every financial circumstance you've ever experienced resulted directly from this principle's operation. Your current economic situation represents the perfect mathematical result of your consciousness working through this mechanism with flawless accuracy. Nothing in your financial life happened randomly or accidentally, but manifested through this precise causal sequence. The transformation begins when you shift from unconscious operation of this principle to deliberate utilization. When you recognize that consciousness precedes manifestation with absolute consistency, you stop attempting to manipulate external circumstances directly, and instead focus on establishing the consciousness that naturally generates desired outcomes. This sequencing, internal before external, represents the fundamental shift missing from conventional financial approaches. Behind the scenes of every remarkable wealth story throughout history operates this identical principle, though described through various conceptual frameworks. Some call it mindset, others vision, still others faith or expectancy. The terminology varies, but the underlying mechanism remains consistent. Consciousness creates the blueprint that physical circumstances subsequently manifest with extraordinary precision. This understanding transforms how you approach financial challenges entirely. Rather than struggling to change external conditions through force or manipulation, you recognize them as perfect feedback about your current consciousness. This shifts your focus from battling effects to adjusting causes, from trying to change circumstances to transforming the consciousness generating them. The most revolutionary aspect of this revelation is how it places genuine financial transformation permanently within your sphere of influence. While you cannot control external economic conditions, you maintain complete authority over your consciousness, the causal realm where prosperity originates. This transfers power from external factors to internal alignment, which remains accessible regardless of circumstance. This principle explains why gratitude practices prove so effective in wealth creation. Genuine gratitude shifts your consciousness from scarcity to abundance, creating a vibrational state compatible with prosperity. This shift happens at the causal level, where reality originates, rather than merely at the emotional level. When gratitude transforms your consciousness, external circumstances naturally reorganize to match this new internal pattern. If you've already begun noticing how your mental states seem to manifest as corresponding financial experiences in your life, write in the comments, "I see the wealth secret working." Have you ever wondered about the extraordinary intelligence behind how certain information finds you at precisely the perfect moment? This phenomenon extends far beyond coincidence or random chance. Transformative knowledge, particularly wisdom about prosperity and abundance, appears to possess its own consciousness, a remarkable ability to navigate through billions of people worldwide to reach specifically those whose awareness has evolved to the perfect level of receptivity. This explains those uncanny moments when you encounter exactly the insight you need, just when you're prepared to implement it. Not a day sooner, not a day later. It's as if the universe operates a sophisticated delivery system that ensures life-changing revelations reach you only when your consciousness has developed sufficiently to recognize and apply them. Effectively, before that precise threshold, the same information might have appeared but remained invisible to your perception. Consider your journey to this moment. Think about the sequence of events, decisions, and seemingly random occurrences that ultimately led you to encounter these principles exactly when your consciousness reached the necessary level of preparation. What appears as chance on the surface reveals itself as perfect orchestration when viewed from a higher perspective. Nothing in this process happened accidentally. Every step was meticulously aligned to bring you to this awakening precisely when you became ready to receive it. This phenomenon explains why two people can encounter identical information yet experience completely different results. One person reads the words but perceives nothing beyond superficial concepts. Another undergoes profound transformation upon encountering the same material. The difference doesn't reside in the information itself, but in the receiver's state of consciousness, their readiness to recognize and implement these truths. Behind the scenes of your experience, this intelligence continuously monitors your evolving awareness, waiting for the precise moment when specific knowledge will catalyze maximum transformation. This explains those remarkable synchronicities where books fall open to exactly the page you need. Conversations provide precisely the insight you've been seeking, or content appears that seems written specifically for your unique situation. Now let's explore an understanding that completely transforms how you perceive the financial challenges you've experienced throughout your life. Every economic setback, every period of struggle, every frustrating limitation hasn't represented punishment, bad luck, or evidence of your unworthiness. These experiences served as necessary preparation for this moment of transformation, deliberate steps in your development toward greater prosperity. Consciousness. This revelation dramatically shifts your relationship with financial difficulties. Rather than interpreting them as failures or obstacles, you recognize them as sophisticated training designed to develop precisely the awareness needed for sustainable abundance. Just as physical resistance builds muscle, these financial challenges strengthened capacities essential for genuine wealth creation: resilience, creativity, discernment, and inner resourcefulness. Consider how your most significant growth often emerged from periods of greatest difficulty. These challenges weren't accidental, but strategically placed experiences designed to develop specific qualities necessary for the prosperity awaiting you. They represented perfect feedback, revealing where your consciousness required adjustment before it could successfully maintain higher levels of abundance. The journey through financial limitation develops capacities that cannot be acquired through any other mechanism. These experiences weren't detours from your path to prosperity, but the actual path itself, necessary steps in the evolution of your wealth consciousness. Without these challenges, you would lack the internal foundation required to sustain genuine abundance once it manifests in your experience. This understanding liberates you from the burden of regret, resentment, or frustration about past financial struggles. Every experience served its essential purpose in your development, occurring exactly when needed and lasting precisely as long as required to facilitate necessary growth. Nothing in your financial history happened randomly or mistakenly, but unfolded according to the perfect intelligence guiding your evolution. The most remarkable aspect of this revelation is how it transforms your perception of current financial challenges. Rather than interpreting them as evidence that prosperity principles aren't working, you recognize them as the final preparations necessary before manifestation occurs. These experiences aren't contradicting the manifestation process, but completing the consciousness shifts required for sustainable results. Behind the scenes of every transformational journey exists this pattern of necessary challenge preceding breakthrough. This sequence isn't arbitrary, but represents the natural unfoldment of consciousness evolution. The challenges you face today aren't blocking your prosperity, but developing precisely the awareness required for its sustainable manifestation in your experience. This perspective explains why attempting to circumvent challenges through shortcuts inevitably fails to produce lasting transformation. The challenges themselves contain the essential elements required for genuine evolution. Bypassing them creates temporary external changes without developing the consciousness necessary to maintain them, inevitably resulting in regression to previous patterns. Now, I want to address how this understanding transforms your relationship with current financial circumstances. When you recognize that challenges represent necessary development rather than obstacles or failures, you engage with them completely differently, with curiosity rather than resistance, with openness rather than frustration, with trust in the intelligence guiding your journey rather than fear about your economic future. If you're beginning to recognize how past financial challenges were actually preparing you for greater abundance rather than preventing it, write in the comments, My challenges had purpose. One of the most profound revelations in the journey toward financial freedom involves recognizing the source of your current money patterns. Your financial reality isn't randomly generated but precisely reflects subconscious programming installed during your earliest years. These invisible scripts were absorbed primarily before age 7, during the period when your brain operated predominantly in theta waves, making you highly receptive to environmental programming without the critical filtering capability of mature consciousness. During this formative period, you unconsciously absorbed beliefs about money, wealth, rich people, financial possibility, and your own economic worthiness, not through rational evaluation, but through direct imprinting from your environment. Every conversation about finances you overheard, every emotional reaction to money you witnessed, every subtle cue from caregivers about abundance or scarcity became encoded in your subconscious operating system, creating the foundation for your adult financial experience. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that your current financial circumstances reflect perfect alignment with this inherited programming. Your economic situation isn't failing or malfunctioning, but operating exactly as designed based on these early imprints. This explains why even the most sophisticated financial strategies often fail to produce lasting results. They attempt to override deeply embedded subconscious patterns through conscious effort alone, an approach that inevitably proves unsustainable. Financial liberation begins the moment you identify these invisible scripts operating beneath conscious awareness. This process requires developing extraordinary self-observation, the ability to witness your automatic reactions, emotional patterns, and habitual thoughts about money without becoming identified with them. This witnessing capacity creates the essential space between perception and reaction where genuine transformation becomes possible. Consider how these subconscious patterns manifest in seemingly unrelated decisions. Perhaps you consistently sabotage financial opportunities when they exceed the prosperity level you witnessed growing up. Maybe you experience inexplicable anxiety when your bank balance exceeds a certain threshold. Or perhaps you find yourself mysteriously attracted to investment opportunities that perfectly align with your inherited risk tolerance rather than your stated financial goals. The journey of reprogramming begins with compassionate recognition that these patterns weren't consciously chosen but absorbed during a developmental period when you lacked discriminative capacity. This understanding removes the burden of shame or self-judgment that often accompanies financial struggles, creating the emotional safety necessary for genuine transformation. Now, I want to explore the most counterintuitive yet essential understanding in the entire wealth creation process. Before any external circumstances can change, an internal revolution must occur. This profound mental transformation creates the energetic foundation upon which lasting prosperity can be built. Without this sequence, internal before external, any financial improvements remain temporary and unstable. This mental shift represents far more than positive thinking or superficial affirmations. It involves a fundamental reorganization of your entire relationship with prosperity, abundance, and your own economic identity. This revolution transforms not just what you think about money, but how you think, altering the very structure of your perception rather than merely its content. What makes this internal transformation particularly challenging is its invisibility to conventional measurement. Unlike external financial metrics that can be precisely quantified, this shift occurs in dimensions beyond spreadsheets or balance statements. Yet this invisible revolution ultimately determines whether external strategies succeed or fail, whether prosperity becomes sustainable or remains perpetually elusive. consider the revelation that every external financial circumstance you've ever experienced represented the perfect physical manifestation of your internal state. Nothing in your economic life happened randomly or accidentally, but precisely reflected your consciousness with mathematical accuracy. This understanding transfers the locus of transformation from external manipulation to internal alignment, from changing conditions to evolving consciousness. The mental revolution required for lasting prosperity involves transcending the fundamental paradigm that shapes most people's financial experience, the perception of separation and limitation. This shift doesn't occur through intellectual understanding alone, but requires systematic reprogramming of neural pathways established during early development. This rewiring process engages your entire being, cognitive, emotional, physiological, and energetic dimensions working in concert to establish new patterns. Behind the scenes of every genuine financial transformation operates this identical sequence, internal revolution preceding external manifestation. The period between the consciousness shift and its physical expression often represents the greatest challenge in the wealth creation journey. During this phase, you must maintain the new internal state despite continuing external evidence of previous patterns. This capacity to sustain evolved consciousness while old physical conditions persist represents the ultimate test of transformation. This understanding explains why identical financial strategies produce dramatically different results for different individuals. The decisive factor isn't the strategy itself, but the consciousness implementing it. Two people can apply the same investment approach, business model, or wealth-building system, yet experience completely opposite outcomes based on their internal alignment. Your results reflect your consciousness with unfailing accuracy, regardless of your tactical approach. If you're beginning to recognize how your current financial reality perfectly mirrors internal programming you absorbed years before you could consciously choose it, write in the comments, "I'm ready for reprogramming." What if I told you that the universe naturally flows toward abundance, not scarcity? This revelation completely transforms how we approach wealth creation. Most conventional financial strategies involve pushing, striving, and struggling against perceived limitations, an exhausting approach that ultimately proves unsustainable. But when you align with the natural current of universal abundance, prosperity becomes as effortless as floating downstream rather than constantly swimming against the current. The key insight that revolutionizes this entire process is recognizing that resistance to wealth exists primarily within your own consciousness, not in external circumstances. This resistance manifests as subtle but powerful patterns, beliefs about your worthiness, fears about visibility or responsibility, concerns about how others might judge your success, or unconscious associations between wealth and negative qualities. These internal blockages function like dams in a river that would naturally flow toward abundance if the obstructions were removed. Consider how water always finds the path of least resistance, flowing effortlessly around obstacles toward its destination. Universal abundance operates according to identical principles, naturally moving toward manifestation through the channels of least resistance. When your consciousness contains blockages, limiting beliefs, contradictory programming, or misaligned values, this natural flow becomes restricted or diverted, creating the experience of financial limitation despite your conscious desires for greater prosperity. The journey of alignment involves systematically identifying and dissolving these internal obstacles rather than forcing external circumstances to change through willpower alone. This process represents a fundamental shift from the paradigm of acquisition to the paradigm of reception, from chasing wealth to allowing its natural flow into your experience by removing the barriers within your consciousness. Behind the scenes of this alignment process occurs a remarkable phenomenon. As internal resistance dissolves, synchronicities, opportunities, and resources begin appearing in your experience with astonishing frequency. These manifestations aren't being created through magical thinking, but represent the natural emergence of prosperity when the blockages preventing its expression have been removed. It's similar to clearing a clogged pipe. Water doesn't need to be created, merely allowed to flow through channels that have been opened. Now I want to explore perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of genuine financial transformation, your relationship with uncertainty. Most people associate uncertainty with anxiety, fear, and avoidance. They attempt to create financial security by eliminating unknowns, controlling variables, and establishing predictable patterns. Yet paradoxically, the greatest financial breakthroughs consistently emerge not from certainty, but from embracing the unknown with confidence rather than fear. This revelation directly contradicts conventional wisdom that equates prosperity with predictability. The wealthiest individuals throughout history share a remarkable capacity, the ability to navigate uncertainty with curiosity rather than anxiety, with anticipation rather than dread. They recognize uncertainty not as dangerous territory to be avoided, but as the fertile soil where unprecedented opportunities take root and flourish. Consider how genuine innovation, breakthrough business models, and revolutionary investment approaches always emerge from territory beyond the boundary of the known. Nothing remarkable or transformative ever originates from the realm of predictable certainty. The capacity to venture confidently into uncharted territory, financially, creatively, strategically, represents one of the most valuable assets in the prosperity journey. The transformation begins with recognizing how your nervous system has been conditioned to interpret uncertainty as threatening rather than promising. This programming occurred for valid evolutionary reasons. Our ancestors survived by avoiding unknown situations that might contain predators or other dangers. But in the modern context of wealth creation, this same protective mechanism becomes profoundly limiting, causing you to retreat from precisely the expansive possibilities that would generate extraordinary prosperity. What's particularly fascinating about this relationship is how uncertainty reveals your actual financial foundation. When external conditions become unpredictable, you discover whether your sense of security resides in circumstantial stability or internal certainty. Those whose security depends on external predictability experience anxiety during periods of change, while those anchored in internal knowing navigate identical conditions with confidence and even excitement. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that certainty was never meant to come from external circumstances, but from internal alignment with the intelligence orchestrating the entire universe. When you establish this connection, uncertainty transforms from threatening to thrilling, from something to be avoided to the exciting space where unprecedented possibilities emerge. This shift doesn't require changing external conditions, but transforming your perception of and relationship with the unknown. Behind this transformation lies a profound truth. The intelligence that maintains the precise orbital patterns of countless galaxies, that orchestrates the intricate biochemistry sustaining your body, that coordinates the infinite complexity of natural systems throughout the planet. This same intelligence is fully available to guide your financial journey when you align with it rather than resist it through fear or attempt to control it through force. If you've experienced moments when embracing uncertainty led to unexpected opportunities or breakthroughs in your financial journey, write in the comments, "Uncertainty revealed my greatest opportunities," let's explore one of the most counterintuitive approaches to accelerating wealth that directly contradicts everything conventional financial wisdom teaches. Most traditional advice operates from a fundamental assumption that wealth must be pursued, chased and captured through strategic action and relentless effort. This paradigm positions money as something external to yourself that must be acquired through force, strategy, or competitive advantage. But what if this entire framework represents precisely the understanding that keeps prosperity perpetually beyond reach? Universal wisdom reveals a completely different mechanism: attraction through becoming rather than acquisition through pursuing. This principle teaches that wealth naturally gravitates towards certain states of being without requiring the exhausting chase that conventional approaches demand. When you transform your identity at the deepest level, becoming the person who naturally experiences abundance rather than the person striving to attain it, the entire manifestation process shifts from effortful pushing to magnetic attraction. Consider the profound difference between these approaches. Conventional wisdom focuses almost exclusively on doing, specific actions, strategies, and techniques designed to capture wealth through external manipulation. Universal wisdom prioritizes being, the internal state that automatically generates corresponding external circumstances without requiring forced intervention. The first approach consumes enormous energy with limited sustainable results. The second aligns with natural laws that effortlessly manifest matching external conditions. This understanding explains why some individuals create remarkable wealth without appearing to work particularly hard, while others exhaust themselves through constant hustle yet remain financially frustrated. The decisive factor isn't action alone, but the consciousness generating that action. When aligned, being precedes doing, your efforts flow with rather than against universal currents, producing exponentially greater results with significantly less resistance. The transformation begins with a revolutionary question: who must I become to naturally attract the prosperity I desire, rather than what must I do to get more money? This shift moves the focus from external acquisition to internal evolution, from having to being. This represents the fundamental perspective reversal, missing from conventional wealth teachings, yet operating behind every remarkable financial transformation throughout history. Now I want to explore what might initially seem surprising: the profound connection between wealth creation and spiritual development. True prosperity isn't merely material acquisition, but represents perfect harmony between your inner and outer worlds. Financial abundance serves as tangible evidence of spiritual alignment, making your economic experience one of the most accurate reflections of your internal state available in human experience. This revelation contradicts both conventional financial teaching and traditional spiritual perspectives. The former treats wealth creation as primarily tactical while ignoring its spiritual dimensions. The latter often regards financial abundance with suspicion, creating artificial separation between material prosperity and spiritual development. Both perspectives miss the profound integration possible when wealth creation is approached as a spiritual discipline revealing your relationship with universal principles. Consider how your financial circumstances provide continuous feedback about your alignment with natural laws. Money represents one of the most responsive mirrors, reflecting your consciousness with extraordinary precision. Economic struggle reveals specific misalignments with universal principles, while prosperity demonstrates harmony with these same laws. This feedback mechanism offers invaluable guidance for spiritual development when properly understood and utilized. The journey of wealth creation as spiritual practice involves recognizing money not as the goal, but as the visible evidence of invisible alignment. Financial abundance represents merely one manifestation of harmonious relationship with universal intelligence, a relationship that simultaneously enhances health, relationships, creativity, and overall well-being when genuinely established. This explains why those who create prosperity through authentic alignment rather than tactical manipulation often experience multidimensional flourishing rather than isolated financial gain. Behind the scenes of this integration lies a remarkable understanding. The same principles that govern spiritual development, surrender, trust, presence, integrity, service, simultaneously generate sustainable wealth when properly applied. The artificial separation between spiritual and financial realms dissolves when you recognize that identical laws operate in both dimensions, merely expressing through different forms while maintaining consistent essence. This perspective transforms how you approach financial challenges entirely. Rather than interpreting economic difficulties as merely practical problems requiring tactical solutions, you recognize them as spiritual misalignments seeking resolution. Each financial obstacle reveals specific aspects of consciousness requiring evolution, limiting beliefs needing transcendence, fears awaiting transformation, attachments ready for release. The material challenge merely makes visible the invisible development opportunity. What makes this approach particularly powerful is how it resolves the inner conflict many experience between spiritual values and financial ambitions. When prosperity becomes the natural expression of spiritual alignment rather than its competitor, this artificial tension dissolves completely. You recognize abundance as the appropriate reflection of internal harmony rather than something requiring justification or generating subtle guilt. If you've begun experiencing moments when financial abundance appears to naturally flow from internal alignment rather than exhausting pursuit, write in the comments, "I'm embracing wealth as spiritual expression." Have you ever noticed an invisible ceiling in your financial life, a level of prosperity that you somehow never seem to exceed? Perhaps your income hovers around a specific threshold, regardless of your efforts. Maybe your savings reach a certain amount before mysterious expenses deplete them, or possibly your investments grow to a particular value before circumstances cause unexpected losses. These patterns aren't coincidental, but reveal a profound truth about wealth creation that most never recognize. Your current financial situation precisely reflects your unconscious belief about what you deserve. This invisible ceiling of self-limitation operates with remarkable consistency, ensuring your external circumstances never significantly exceed your internal comfort zone. This mechanism explains why lottery winners often lose their fortunes, why sudden financial windfalls frequently disappear, and why many entrepreneurs sabotage their success once it approaches unfamiliar territory. The subconscious mind maintains alignment between your internal blueprint and external reality with mathematical precision. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that these limitations weren't externally imposed, but self-created, not consciously or deliberately, but through subconscious programming absorbed throughout your developmental journey. Your mind established specific parameters around deservingness, possibility, and financial identity based on early experiences, parental modeling, cultural conditioning, and significant emotional events involving money. Breaking through this invisible ceiling requires more than merely adopting new financial strategies or working harder. Those approaches address effects while ignoring causes, inevitably resulting in temporary improvements rather than sustainable transformation. Genuine breakthrough begins with recognizing exactly where these self-imposed boundaries originated and systematically dissolving them through consciousness work rather than exclusively tactical intervention. Consider how these limitations manifest in subtle self-sabotage that maintains your familiar financial territory. Perhaps you unconsciously create emergencies requiring money whenever your savings approach unfamiliar levels. Maybe you experience mysterious health issues affecting your productivity when your income exceeds comfortable thresholds. Or possibly, relationship conflicts emerge precisely when your business success surpasses previous boundaries. These patterns aren't random, but represent sophisticated mechanisms maintaining alignment between your internal blueprint and external circumstances. Now, I want to explore something that initially might seem abstract, but represents one of the most practical principles in genuine wealth creation: the vibrational nature of financial attraction. Quantum physics has conclusively demonstrated that everything in existence, including physical objects like money, consists fundamentally of energy vibrating at specific frequencies. This scientific understanding reveals why prosperity responds to your energetic signature rather than effort alone. Money itself operates as a highly responsive energy that magnetically attracts to corresponding vibrational frequencies. This explains why certain individuals seem to effortlessly attract financial opportunities while others struggle despite implementing identical strategies. The decisive factor isn't action alone, but the energetic frequency generating that action. When your internal vibration aligns with prosperity consciousness, financial opportunities naturally magnetize toward you without requiring the exhausting pursuit that conventional approaches demand. This understanding transforms wealth creation from an exclusively physical process to an energetic alignment practice. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, expectations, and internal imagery generate specific electromagnetic frequencies that interact with the quantum field, attracting resonant experiences while repelling incompatible ones. This mechanism operates continuously, automatically translating your dominant vibration into corresponding material circumstances with extraordinary precision. The remarkable aspect of this principle is that your conscious intentions represent only a fraction of your total vibrational output. Your subconscious patterns, including beliefs you're not aware of holding, emotional associations you don't recognize, and identity frameworks operating below conscious awareness, generate powerful frequencies that often contradict your stated goals. This explains why affirmations and visualizations frequently fail to produce sustainable results. They address only surface-level vibration, while deeper contradictory frequencies remain active. Consider how this vibrational nature explains the common experience of financial hot streaks and slumps. During periods of genuine confidence, enthusiasm, and expectancy, opportunities seem to appear from nowhere, resources arrive unexpectedly, and circumstances align perfectly to support your prosperity. Conversely, during phases of worry, doubt, or scarcity, consciousness, identical external actions produce minimal results or encounter persistent obstacles. The variable isn't your strategy, but your vibrational state implementing that strategy. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough lies this common element: a significant shift in energetic frequency preceding external manifestation. This sequence never operates in reverse. Vibration always precedes manifestation rather than following it. This explains why attempting to improve your financial vibration by first acquiring money inevitably fails. The transformation must occur energetically before it can manifest materially, never the opposite order. The journey of aligning your vibration with prosperity consciousness involves systematically identifying and transforming the specific frequencies currently dominating your relationship with wealth. These include thought patterns, emotional habits, belief systems, identity frameworks, and neurological programming that collectively generate your financial set point. As these elements shift from scarcity to abundance frequencies, your external circumstances naturally reorganize to match this new vibrational reality. If you've experienced moments when your financial situation seemed to dramatically improve following a significant shift in your internal state, rather than through strategic action alone, write in the comments, "I've witnessed vibrational manifestation, the most revolutionary understanding in the entire wealth." Creation process involves recognizing where financial decisions actually originate. Neuroscience has conclusively demonstrated that approximately 95% of your mind operates below conscious awareness, with only the remaining 5% accessible to deliberate thought. This revelation transforms everything about the manifestation process because it explains why conscious intentions, affirmations, and visualizations often produce minimal lasting results. They engage only the smallest fraction of your total mental capacity while leaving the dominant portion untouched. Your financial decisions aren't primarily made by your conscious mind, but emerge from this vast subconscious territory operating according to programming installed decades earlier. Every significant choice regarding money, investment decisions, spending patterns, income generation, risk tolerance, wealth preservation originates in this deeper mental ecosystem regardless of what your conscious mind believes or intends. This explains why willpower-based approaches to financial transformation inevitably fail. They attempt to override programming, operating at 95% capacity with resources representing only 5% of your mental function. Lasting wealth transformation requires systematically reprogramming this subconscious foundation rather than merely adopting new conscious strategies. This process involves accessing and reshaping neural pathways established during early development, the fundamental patterns determining how you automatically perceive, interpret, and respond to financial situations without conscious deliberation. Until these deeper patterns align with your conscious prosperity goals, sustainable transformation remains impossible regardless of your tactical approach. Consider how this understanding explains the common experience of knowing exactly what you should do financially, yet finding yourself consistently making contradictory choices. This gap between knowledge and behavior reveals the disconnect between your conscious intentions and subconscious programming. The latter always prevails in this conflict because it operates with significantly greater resources and deeper neurological entrenchment than your conscious mind could ever marshal. The reprogramming journey involves specific methodologies designed to bypass conscious filtering mechanisms and directly access this deeper mental territory. These approaches utilize altered brainwave states, specialized visualization techniques, emotional intensity, and consistency over time to establish new neural pathways that eventually become as automatic as your previous limiting patterns. This process doesn't erase existing programming, but creates alternative pathways that become increasingly dominant through deliberate reinforcement. Now, I want to explore one of the most fascinating yet challenging aspects of financial transformation: the sophisticated self-sabotage mechanisms hiding within familiar thought patterns. These subtle saboteurs operate like invisible software running in the background of your consciousness, systematically undermining your prosperity efforts despite your conscious desires for greater abundance. What makes these mechanisms particularly difficult to identify is how they disguise themselves as reasonable, prudent, or even virtuous thinking. They don't appear as obvious obstacles but masquerade as protective wisdom, practical consideration, or responsible caution. This camouflage explains why they remain undetected for decades, quietly ensuring your financial results never significantly exceed your subconscious set point, regardless of your conscious efforts. Consider some common manifestations of these subtle saboteurs. Perhaps you consistently find logical reasons to delay implementing profitable opportunities until the perfect moment, which somehow never arrives. Maybe you experience mysterious health issues requiring expensive treatment whenever your savings approach. Unfamiliar territory. Or possibly you find yourself inexplicably attracted to high-risk investments after periods of steady financial growth. These patterns aren't random, but represent sophisticated mechanisms maintaining alignment with your subconscious prosperity blueprint. The most insidious form of financial self-sabotage involves establishing unconscious associations between wealth and negative qualities or consequences. When your subconscious mind connects prosperity with danger, the loss of relationships, excessive responsibility, unwanted visibility, potential criticism, or moral compromise, it systematically prevents financial breakthrough regardless of your conscious intentions. These associations function like hidden tripwires in your psyche, triggering protective mechanisms whenever you approach unfamiliar levels of abundance. Behind these sabotage patterns lies a fundamental biological priority: maintaining coherence between your internal identity and external circumstances. Your subconscious mind values this alignment above all other considerations, including your conscious desires for greater prosperity. It will systematically generate circumstances that return you to familiar territory whenever your financial situation begins exceeding the parameters of your established identity, regardless of whether that identity serves your conscious goals. The breakthrough begins with recognizing that these sabotage mechanisms weren't deliberately installed to prevent your success, but emerged as protective adaptations during earlier developmental stages. They represent sophisticated responses to specific experiences involving money, success, visibility, or power, often occurring during childhood when your critical faculties remained undeveloped. Understanding their protective origin removes the element of self-blame while creating the emotional safety necessary for genuine transformation. The journey toward liberation from these hidden saboteurs involves developing extraordinary self-observation, the ability to witness your automatic thoughts, emotional reactions, and habitual behaviors around money without becoming identified with them. This witnessing capacity creates the essential space between impulse and action where conscious choice becomes possible. As awareness illuminates previously unconscious patterns, their power diminishes automatically, allowing new possibilities to emerge naturally. If you've begun noticing specific self-sabotage patterns that consistently appear whenever your financial situation approaches unfamiliar territory, write in the comments, "I'm becoming aware of my hidden saboteurs." One of the most profound shifts in the prosperity journey involves transcending what might be called the greatest illusion in financial experience, the perception that external circumstances cause your economic reality. This perspective keeps countless individuals trapped in patterns of limitation because it positions them as victims of conditions beyond their control rather than creators of their financial experience. The liberation journey begins the moment you stop blaming external factors, the economy, your background, your education, your connections, your location, or any other circumstance, and recognize your consciousness as the primary creative force shaping your entire economic reality. This understanding directly contradicts conventional wisdom that treats external conditions as causes and your financial situation as effects. The revolutionary perspective reverses this relationship entirely, revealing that your consciousness represents the causal realm, while external circumstances merely reflect these internal patterns with mathematical precision. Nothing in your economic experience happens randomly or accidentally, but manifests as the perfect expression of your dominant consciousness, whether operating consciously or unconsciously. Consider how this revelation transforms your relationship with financial challenges completely. Rather than interpreting difficulties as obstacles preventing your prosperity, you recognize them as precise feedback about specific aspects of your consciousness requiring evolution. Each challenge reveals exactly where internal alignment remains incomplete, offering valuable guidance for continued development rather than evidence of external victimization. This perspective shift transforms frustration into fascination as you engage with obstacles as evolutionary catalysts rather than unfortunate impediments. The journey into creator consciousness involves developing what might be called radical responsibility, not in the sense of blame or self-criticism, but as recognition of your fundamental creative role in generating your entire financial experience. This stance doesn't deny the existence of systemic factors or economic realities, but acknowledges that your response to these conditions, your perception, interpretation, and creative engagement, ultimately determines their impact on your prosperity more significantly than the conditions themselves. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a remarkable neurological process. Your brain physically reorganizes itself to accommodate this new perspective. Neural pathways associated with victim consciousness, the perception of external causation, begin atrophying through disuse, while entirely new networks associated with creator consciousness establish and strengthen through repeated engagement. This rewiring process literally transforms how you perceive financial reality at the physiological level, altering both your automatic interpretations and your instinctive responses. Now, I want to explore one of the most extraordinary revelations in the prosperity journey. Wealth represents the natural expression of purpose alignment rather than something requiring or generating subtle guilt. When you align with your soul's highest purpose, financial, abundance flows as the organic byproduct of living in harmony with universal intelligence. This understanding resolves the artificial conflict many experience between spiritual fulfillment and material prosperity, revealing them as complementary expressions of the same fundamental alignment. Consider how this perspective differs from conventional approaches that position wealth as the goal of financial activities. In the paradigm of purpose alignment, prosperity becomes the natural consequence, the appropriate reflection of authentic contribution rather than the primary objective. This sequencing transforms both the quality of your engagement and the sustainability of your results because it establishes internal fulfillment as the foundation for external abundance rather than expecting material acquisition to generate lasting satisfaction. The revelation that transforms everything involves recognizing your unique purpose signature, the specific combination of talents, passions, experiences, and perspectives that comprises your authentic contribution. This distinctive pattern represents your particular frequency in the universal symphony, the specific note that only you can contribute with complete authenticity. When you align your economic activities with this signature rather than pursuing generic wealth strategies, prosperity flows with remarkable consistency and minimal resistance. Behind this alignment process operates a fascinating principle. The universe naturally supports authentic purpose expression with proportional resources. This support doesn't manifest from sentimental favoritism, but represents perfect economic efficiency. The allocation of maximum resources toward activities that generate optimal contribution. When your financial endeavors align with your authentic purpose, you access levels of creativity, resilience, inspiration, and synchronicity unavailable through tactical manipulation alone, naturally generating exceptional results that distinguish your efforts from conventional approaches. This understanding explains why certain individuals create remarkable prosperity through activities that appear to contradict conventional wealth wisdom. They succeed not by following generic strategies, but by aligning so completely with their unique purpose that universal intelligence naturally directs extraordinary resources toward their endeavors. This alignment generates an unmistakable resonance that distinguishes authentic contribution from imitative efforts, regardless of how sophisticated the tactical approach might appear. The journey toward purpose-aligned prosperity involves transcending societal conditioning about acceptable wealth paths and reconnecting with your internal guidance system. The intuitive knowing that recognizes resonant opportunities without requiring external validation. This reconnection process often necessitates periods of deliberate stillness, allowing your authentic voice to emerge from beneath layers of conditioning about appropriate career choices, reasonable financial expectations, and acceptable contribution models. What makes this approach particularly revolutionary is how it transforms your relationship with effort entirely. When financial activities align with authentic purpose, work assumes a completely different quality, flowing with natural momentum rather than requiring constant discipline or motivational management. This state doesn't eliminate necessary effort, but transforms its nature from exhausting push to energizing engagement, naturally extending your capacity and enhancing your results without depleting your essential resources. If you've experienced moments when prosperity seemed to flow effortlessly because you were engaged in activities perfectly aligned with your authentic purpose rather than merely chasing money, write in the comments, "I've tasted purpose-aligned prosperity." What if I told you that your deepest financial desires aren't actually about money at all? This revelation might initially seem counterintuitive, yet it contains a profound truth that transforms your entire relationship with wealth. Your yearning for greater prosperity isn't materialistic or shallow as some might suggest. It represents your soul's innate drive toward greater creative expression and contribution in this world. This understanding liberates you from the subtle guilt many associate with financial ambition, revealing that authentic wealth desires originate from the most evolved aspects of your being rather than egoic attachment. Consider the fascinating pattern observable throughout human development. As consciousness evolves, it naturally seeks expanded creative expression. This progression represents a fundamental evolutionary impulse embedded within consciousness itself, the drive toward greater manifestation, more sophisticated creation, and broader impact. Your financial desires represent this same impulse translated into the economic dimension of your experience, not separate from your spiritual development, but an integral aspect of it. This perspective explains why genuine financial fulfillment never comes from mere accumulation. People who pursue wealth solely for possession invariably discover an emptiness that no amount of acquisition can satisfy. True prosperity fulfillment emerges only when financial resources amplify your authentic creative expression and meaningful contribution. The evolutionary purpose behind your wealth desires isn't accumulation, but expansion. Greater capacity to manifest your unique gifts in tangible form. Behind the scenes of this understanding operates a revolutionary principle. The universe itself expands through your creative expression. Your authentic contribution doesn't merely benefit you or even those directly impacted by your work. It participates in the fundamental evolutionary process through which consciousness explores its own potential. This explains why aligned prosperity generates a distinctive quality of fulfillment unavailable through any other experience. It represents participation in universal creativity rather than merely personal gain. The transformation begins when you recognize that your financial aspirations, properly understood, represent spiritual ambitions translated into economic language. The desire for a beautiful home reflects your soul's yearning to create sacred space for connection and renewal. The wish for travel signifies your being's drive toward expanded perspective and cross-cultural understanding. The ambition for business growth represents your spirit's desire to solve meaningful problems at increasing scale. These translations reveal the evolutionary intelligence operating behind authentic financial desires. Now, I want to explore one of the most remarkable phenomena in the prosperity journey. As your consciousness expands, you begin recognizing valuable opportunities that remain completely invisible to those operating at lower frequencies of financial awareness. This perceptual evolution doesn't require special training or sophisticated strategies, but emerges naturally as your relationship with abundance transforms at the foundational level. This revelation explains why certain individuals consistently identify extraordinary opportunities in seemingly ordinary circumstances, noticing potential where others see nothing remarkable, recognizing solutions where others perceive only problems, envisioning possibilities where others observe limitations. These people haven't merely acquired tactical knowledge, but have evolved their perceptual capacity through consciousness development, allowing them to recognize patterns and possibilities invisible from conventional awareness. Consider how this expanded perception operates. Two people can encounter identical information, observe the same market conditions, or experience similar circumstances, yet perceive entirely different opportunity landscapes. One sees only obstacles, limitations, and reasons for caution, while the other recognizes latent potential, emerging trends, and avenues for creative solution. The external reality remains identical, only the consciousness perceiving it differs. This explains why certain individuals create remarkable prosperity from conditions that appear challenging to conventional perception. What makes this expanded awareness particularly valuable is how it transcends logical analysis alone. You're evolved. Prosperity consciousness doesn't merely process information differently, but accesses intuitive knowing that recognizes resonant opportunities without requiring extensive analytical justification. This integration of rational discernment and intuitive recognition allows you to evaluate potential with extraordinary accuracy while moving with a decisive speed impossible through analytical processes alone. Behind this perceptual evolution lies a fascinating neurological transformation. Your brain literally develops increased connection between analytical and intuitive processing centers, creating an integrated perception unavailable through either function operating independently. This enhanced neural connectivity allows you to recognize patterns, relationships, and possibilities invisible to compartmentalized awareness, giving you access to opportunity landscapes that others cannot perceive regardless of their tactical knowledge or technical expertise. The journey toward expanded opportunity recognition involves deliberate practices that enhance this integrated perception, activities that simultaneously engage analytical discernment and intuitive knowing rather than developing either capacity in isolation. This balanced approach creates the perceptual foundation necessary for consistent opportunity recognition in constantly evolving economic landscapes. Unlike tactical strategies that become obsolete as conditions change, evolved prosperity perception remains effective. Across all market cycles and economic environments, what's particularly liberating about this understanding is recognizing that opportunity itself never becomes scarce regardless of external economic conditions. What changes isn't the availability of potential, but the consciousness capable of perceiving it. During periods of economic challenge, opportunities don't disappear but shift form, becoming invisible to conventional perception while remaining completely apparent to evolved financial awareness. This explains why certain individuals consistently prosper during recessions, market corrections, industry disruptions, and other conditions that challenge conventional approaches. If you've experienced moments when you recognized valuable opportunities that seemed completely obvious to you yet invisible to others around you, write in the comments, "My prosperity perception is expanding." Let's explore what might be the most significant breakthrough point in the entire prosperity journey. The moment when your conscious intentions and your subconscious programming finally align rather than conflict. Most people experience perpetual frustration in their wealth creation efforts because these two dimensions of mind operate at cross purposes, creating an invisible inner conflict that systematically sabotages their progress despite their best conscious efforts. Your conscious mind might be completely committed to greater prosperity, implementing sophisticated strategies, affirming positive beliefs, and visualizing expanded abundance. Yet simultaneously, your subconscious mind, operating from programming installed decades earlier, maintains contradictory patterns that effectively neutralize these conscious efforts. This internal misalignment creates what might be called prosperity gridlock, a frustrating condition where forward movement remains blocked despite applying increasing conscious effort. Financial breakthrough occurs when these dimensions finally harmonize, when your deeper mind aligns with your conscious intentions, eliminating the invisible conflict, sabotaging your progress. This alignment doesn't happen through conscious convincing alone, but requires specific methodologies designed to access and reshape subconscious patterns directly. These approaches bypass the analytical filtering of your conscious mind to establish new programming at the deeper levels where your automatic financial responses actually originate. Consider the revelation that your conscious mind represents merely the requesting aspect of your manifestation equipment, while your subconscious mind functions as the fulfilling mechanism. This understanding explains why affirmations and visualizations often produce minimal results despite your sincere engagement. Those approaches communicate your desires effectively, but fail to reprogram the fulfillment system responsible for manifesting corresponding experiences. Without alignment between these systems, sustainable transformation remains impossible regardless of your conscious commitment. The harmonization journey involves recognizing specific points of contradiction between your conscious intentions and subconscious programming. These discrepancies often appear as mysterious self-sabotage, inexplicable resistance, or repeated patterns that systematically undermine your conscious goals. Each contradiction represents valuable feedback, revealing exactly where internal alignment remains incomplete, offering precise guidance for targeted reprogramming rather than evidence of personal inadequacy or universal resistance to your prosperity. Behind the scenes of this harmonization process occurs a remarkable neurological phenomenon. Your brain physically reorganizes itself to accommodate new prosperity patterns. Through consistent exposure to aligned programming, neural networks associated with abundance consciousness strengthen and expand, while pathways supporting limitation gradually weaken through disuse. This biological transformation literally rewires your automatic perceptions and responses regarding money, wealth, opportunity, and financial possibility. Now, I want to explore what might be the most crucial distinction in the entire manifestation process, the profound difference between wishing for wealth and embodying prosperity. This understanding transforms everything about how manifestation actually works and explains why many sincere prosperity efforts ultimately fail despite consistent practice and genuine intention. Conventional approaches treat manifestation primarily as a process of external acquisition, identifying what you want, using various techniques to attract it, and ultimately receiving it from outside yourself. This perspective positions wealth as something separate from your being that must be pursued, captured, and possessed. But genuine manifestation operates according to completely different principles. It functions not through external acquisition, but internal transformation. The breakthrough occurs when you shift from pursuing prosperity to becoming the embodiment of abundance consciousness. Consider how this distinction transforms the entire process. Wishing for wealth focuses your attention on what's absent, reinforcing the perception of current lack, while projecting fulfillment into some future moment when your desires finally manifest. This approach actually strengthens scarcity consciousness despite your intentions for greater abundance. Embodiment, by contrast, establishes prosperity as your current identity rather than future acquisition. It positions abundance as what you are rather than what you seek, fundamentally altering your relationship with the entire manifestation process. This understanding explains why certain individuals create remarkable wealth without appearing to use manifestation techniques at all. They've established abundance as their fundamental identity rather than their aspiration. Their prosperity doesn't result from sophisticated attraction strategies, but emerges as the natural expression of who they've become. This embodiment approach eliminates the energetic contradiction inherent in pursuing what you perceive as absent, creating internal coherence that automatically generates corresponding external circumstances. The transformation involves a revolutionary question: who must I become to naturally experience the prosperity I desire, rather than how can I get what I currently don't have? This shift moves the focus from external strategies to internal evolution, from having to being. When abundance becomes your authentic identity rather than your objective, prosperity naturally flows into your experience without requiring the strained effort characteristic of acquisition-based approaches. What makes this embodiment approach particularly powerful is how it eliminates the waiting period inherent in conventional manifestation. Rather than projecting fulfillment into some future moment when your desires finally materialize, embodiment establishes prosperity, consciousness as your current reality, regardless of external circumstances. This internal alignment creates immediate fulfillment while simultaneously generating the energetic conditions necessary for corresponding physical manifestation. Behind this transformation lies a profound understanding of universal law. Physical circumstances follow consciousness rather than creating it. Your external financial conditions represent the perfect reflection of your established identity, not merely your temporary thoughts or visualizations. When you transform your fundamental relationship with prosperity at the identity level, external circumstances naturally reorganize to reflect this new reality with mathematical precision. This sequence, being before having, represents the critical distinction between wishful thinking and genuine manifestation. If you've begun recognizing moments when prosperity flows naturally from who you've become rather than what you're attempting to attract or achieve, write in the comments, "I'm shifting from wishing to embodying." One of the most overlooked aspects of the prosperity journey involves transforming your relationship with time itself. Most people approach financial manifestation with a subtle but powerful impatience, an urgent demand that desired results appear immediately to validate their efforts and relieve their anxiety. This temporal pressure creates a fascinating paradox. The very urgency intended to accelerate manifestation actually generates energetic resistance that repels the prosperity you're attempting to attract. This revelation explains a pattern you've likely witnessed repeatedly. Those most desperately pursuing immediate financial results often experience the greatest delays, while individuals maintaining relaxed certainty about eventual manifestation frequently attract prosperity with remarkable speed. The decisive factor isn't the manifestation technique itself, but the relationship with time surrounding its implementation. Urgency broadcasts fundamental doubt about the manifestation process, creating contradictory energy that sabotages the very outcomes you're attempting to generate. Consider how this impatience reveals deeper programming about abundance. Demanding immediate results demonstrates subtle disbelief in the reliability of universal principles. This energetic contradiction communicates mixed signals to your manifestation system, simultaneously requesting prosperity while broadcasting doubt about its arrival. This conflicted vibration creates precisely the delays and obstacles you're attempting to avoid through accelerated manifestation. The transformation begins with developing what might be called the balanced timeline perspective, characteristic of true wealth creators. This orientation maintains clear intention about desired outcomes while releasing attachment to specific manifestation timing. It combines active engagement in the present moment with relaxed certainty about eventual results. A balanced approach that eliminates the resistance inherent in anxious urgency, while maintaining the focused intention necessary for manifestation. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a profound understanding. Universal intelligence operates according to perfect timing that considers factors beyond your conscious awareness. This divine timing ensures manifestation occurs not merely when you want results, but when the complete ecosystem surrounding your desire has aligned to support sustainable fulfillment rather than temporary acquisition. Resistance to this natural timing actually delays manifestation by creating energetic interference with the perfect orchestration already underway. What's particularly fascinating about this principle is how it explains the common experience of sudden manifestation after extended periods of apparent inactivity. During these seeming delays, essential elements are being orchestrated behind the scenes, resources gathering, circumstances aligning, opportunities developing, creating the perfect conditions for sustainable prosperity rather than temporary acquisition. Your relationship with time during this process directly affects whether you experience frustration or fascinating anticipation while these preparations unfold. Now, I want to explore what might be the most significant environmental factor affecting your prosperity consciousness. The mass consciousness of scarcity, perpetually broadcasting limitation, fear, and financial anxiety. This collective field functions like background radiation, continuously influencing your financial vibration unless you deliberately establish energetic boundaries and alternative connections. Your financial reality improves dramatically when you disconnect from this collective poverty consciousness and establish direct connection with universal abundance instead. Consider how this collective field manifests in your daily experience. Conversations centered on economic problems rather than possibilities, news feeds emphasizing financial danger rather than opportunity, social environments reinforcing limitation rather than expansion. This continuous exposure subtly influences your prosperity consciousness regardless of your conscious intentions, creating an invisible ceiling on your manifestation capacity that remains in place until you establish deliberate, energetic boundaries. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that prosperity consciousness requires environmental protection just as physical health demands protection from environmental toxins. Creating sustainable abundance necessitates deliberately curating the energetic influences surrounding your manifestation system, selecting information sources, conversations, relationships, and environments that support expanded prosperity awareness rather than reinforcing limitation consciousness. Breaking free from mass scarcity programming involves a revolutionary decision to trust your direct connection with universal abundance more than collective interpretations of economic reality. This shift doesn't require denying external circumstances, but involves consciously choosing which aspect of reality receives your primary attention and energetic investment. When you consistently focus on abundance evidence rather than scarcity confirmation, your consciousness naturally aligns with prosperity regardless of surrounding conditions. Behind this liberation process lies a profound understanding. Mass consciousness always emphasizes the most common denominator rather than exceptional possibility. It reflects average experience rather than extraordinary potential, making it an unreliable guide for those committed to creating uncommon prosperity. Exceptional financial results require exceptional consciousness that often directly contradicts collective interpretation, requiring the courage to maintain expanded awareness despite apparent external evidence supporting limitation. What makes this disconnection particularly challenging is how it often requires temporary social isolation. Moving beyond collective scarcity consciousness frequently means limiting exposure to conversations, relationships, and environments that reinforce limitation thinking, creating periods of apparent separation from familiar social territory. This transitional phase represents a necessary aspect of the evolution process rather than permanent condition, ultimately leading to new connections with individuals and environments operating at similar prosperity frequencies. The transformation involves establishing what might be called selective permeability, developing discernment about which external influences you allow into your consciousness while maintaining connection with the broader world. This balanced approach neither isolates you completely from reality nor leaves you vulnerable to unconscious programming, creating appropriate boundaries that protect your developing prosperity consciousness while allowing continued engagement with the world around you. If you've begun noticing how collective scarcity consciousness affects your financial vibration and have started establishing deliberate energetic boundaries to protect your prosperity awareness, write in the comments, "I'm choosing abundance over mass limitation." Let's explore what might initially seem like a simple personality trait, but actually represents one of the most significant hidden wealth destroyers operating in your financial experience. Indecision isn't merely a harmless tendency toward careful consideration or thorough analysis. It's actually disguised poverty operating systematically behind the scenes, creating an invisible barrier between you and the abundance you desire to manifest. This revelation explains a pattern you've likely observed repeatedly throughout your life. Prosperity consistently flows toward individuals who make clear, confident decisions while avoiding those perpetually caught in analytical paralysis or emotional ambivalence. This correlation isn't coincidental, but represents perfect causation. The decisive person isn't merely benefiting from good choices, but is actively generating an energetic signature that naturally attracts opportunity, resources, and supportive circumstances. Consider how indecision broadcasts a specific frequency into the quantum field, one of fundamental doubt, uncertainty, and conflicted intention. This energetic pattern creates the perfect vibrational environment for continued scarcity rather than expanded abundance. The universe responds not to your desires alone, but to the coherence of your total energetic output. When indecision creates internal fragmentation, your manifestation system receives contradictory instructions, naturally producing delayed or diminished results regardless of your conscious intentions. The wealth-building power of decisive action extends far beyond the practical benefits of implementation speed or market timing. It operates at the causal level of reality creation, establishing the energetic foundation necessary for prosperity manifestation. Each clear decision generates a specific frequency that attracts corresponding circumstances with mathematical precision. This explains why even imperfect action consistently produces better results than perfect. Contemplation. The former creates coherent energy, while the latter maintains vibrational stagnation. Behind the scenes of this understanding operates a fascinating principle. The universe responds more powerfully to decisiveness than correctness. This revelation contradicts conventional wisdom, emphasizing perfect analysis before action, explaining why certain individuals create remarkable results from decisions that initially appeared flawed, while others remain trapped in perpetual preparation for perfect actions they never actually take. The decisive person generates momentum that naturally reveals course corrections, while the indecisive individual remains eternally stalled at the starting line, waiting for perfect clarity. Now, I want to explore what might be the most undervalued wealth creation tool already in your possession: your imagination. Most people have been conditioned to dismiss imagination as childish escapism, impractical daydreaming, or wishful thinking. A pleasant but ultimately useless diversion from real financial activities. This fundamental misunderstanding prevents access to what actually functions as the divine workshop where all fortunes are forged before manifesting in physical reality. Your imagination represents far more than entertainment or distraction. It constitutes the laboratory where new financial realities are designed, tested, and prepared for physical manifestation. Everything you currently observe in material form, every business, building, product, service, or wealth vehicle, existed first as pure imagination in someone's mind before manifesting in tangible reality. Nothing appears physically without first being conceived imaginally. This sequence never operates in reverse order. Consider how this understanding transforms your relationship with imagination entirely. Rather than dismissing it as impractical fantasy, you recognize it as the primary creative faculty through which all physical manifestation originates. This perspective shift transforms daydreaming from guilt-inducing distraction to essential creative practice, the necessary first stage in bringing any new prosperity into tangible form. The most successful wealth creators throughout history have all been master imaginers, whether they consciously recognize this capacity or intuitively engaged it. What makes imagination particularly powerful for financial transformation is its unique ability to bypass limiting beliefs operating in your conscious mind. When fully engaged in imaginative creation, you temporarily suspend the critical filtering mechanisms that normally restrict your financial vision based on past experiences, perceived limitations, or practical considerations. This suspension allows access to possibilities beyond your current belief parameters, connecting you with expanded potential unavailable through analytical thinking alone. Behind this creative process operates a profound universal law. Imagination provides the blueprint that your manifestation system uses to create corresponding physical circumstances. The images you consistently hold in your mind, whether conscious or unconscious, intentional or habitual, function as detailed instructions directing your energy toward specific manifestations. This process occurs continuously, whether you're aware of it or not, making conscious mastery of imagination essential for deliberate wealth creation, rather than unconscious pattern repetition. The journey toward imagination mastery involves specific practices designed to transform casual visualization into precision manifestation technology. Unlike passive daydreaming that wanders without direction, deliberate imaginative creation involves sustained focus, emotional engagement, sensory detail, and consistent repetition, qualities that dramatically accelerate the bridge between mental conception and physical manifestation. This disciplined approach transforms imagination from occasional amusement to sophisticated manifestation equipment. If you've begun recognizing how your most significant financial breakthroughs originated first in your imagination, appearing clearly in your mind's eye before manifesting in physical reality, write in the comments, "My imagination creates my financial future." What most people don't realize is that your imagination actually operates through two completely different mechanisms, each serving a distinct function in the wealth creation process. The first type, what might be called synthetic imagination, works by recombining elements you've already experienced, concepts you've encountered, and knowledge you've accumulated. This form of imagination functions like a sophisticated mental workshop that takes existing pieces and arranges them into new configurations to solve familiar problems or create variations of things that already exist. Synthetic imagination proves tremendously valuable for incremental innovation, adaptation of successful models, and optimization of existing approaches. This faculty allows you to modify established business strategies for new markets, combine elements from different financial vehicles into hybrid approaches, or apply principles from unrelated fields to solve challenges in your primary domain. The quality of your synthetic imagination directly reflects the diversity and depth of your accumulated knowledge and experience. But there exists a second, far more powerful form of imagination that operates according to completely different principles. Creative imagination functions as a direct channel to unlimited possibilities, connecting you with solutions, opportunities, and concepts that transcend your existing knowledge base entirely. This faculty doesn't merely recombine what you already know, but accesses entirely new understanding that appears to download directly into your consciousness from a source beyond your individual mind. This distinction explains a phenomenon you've likely experienced, those moments when breakthrough ideas seem to arrive fully formed in your awareness, complete concepts, solutions, or creative directions that couldn't possibly have been assembled from your existing knowledge, yet appear with astonishing clarity and coherence. These aren't merely clever recombinations, but represent genuine connection with expanded intelligence that transcends your individual consciousness. What makes this understanding particularly revolutionary is recognizing that truly transformational wealth ideas rarely emerge from logical analysis or synthetic recombination alone. The most significant financial breakthroughs throughout history, revolutionary business models, paradigm-shifting innovations, unprecedented investment approaches, have consistently originated through this creative imagination channel rather than merely optimizing existing patterns. This explains why genuine innovation often appears to violate established wisdom rather than merely extending it. Behind the scenes of this process operates a profound reality that modern physics increasingly confirms. Your individual mind exists within and connects to a vast field of infinite intelligence that contains all possibilities simultaneously. When properly attuned, your consciousness functions as a receiver that can access specific frequencies within this field, bringing completely new concepts into tangible awareness without requiring previous exposure or logical derivation from existing knowledge. Now I want to explore the practical methodology for consistently accessing this unlimited creative intelligence beyond your individual mind. Revolutionary wealth ideas don't emerge primarily from strained analytical effort, but from establishing the precise internal conditions that facilitate connection with the field of infinite possibilities. This approach doesn't merely optimize what you already know, but grants access to entirely new paradigms that transcend your current understanding completely. Consider how this process explains the common experience of breakthrough ideas arriving during periods of mental relaxation rather than concentrated analysis. Your most significant insights likely emerged while walking in nature, taking a shower, driving without conscious focus, or during the twilight state between wakefulness and sleep. These aren't coincidental patterns, but reveal precisely when your analytical mind temporarily releases its dominant control, allowing connection with expanded intelligence beyond your individual consciousness. The methodology for deliberately accessing this field involves creating what might be called the optimal receptor state. Specific brainwave patterns, nervous system conditions, and perceptual orientations that maximize your capacity to receive rather than generate ideas. Unlike analytical thinking that actively pursues conclusions through logical progression, this receptive state establishes the perfect conditions for spontaneous revelation from sources beyond your conscious resources. What makes this approach particularly revolutionary is how it transforms your relationship with creative blocks or challenging problems. Rather than intensifying analytical effort when solutions prove elusive, you recognize these moments as opportunities to shift from generation to reception, from trying to produce answers through mental force to creating the optimal conditions for solutions to emerge through expanded connection. This perspective transforms frustration into fascinating anticipation as you engage with universal intelligence rather than relying exclusively on individual capacity. Behind this methodology lies a profound truth. The universe itself is fundamentally creative in nature, continuously generating new possibilities, patterns, and potentials. Your individual creativity represents not isolated capacity, but conscious participation in this universal creative process. When you align your awareness with this expanded field, you access not merely your personal resources, but tap into the limitless creative intelligence from which all manifestation emerges. The journey toward mastery involves developing what might be called creative receptivity alongside analytical capability, the balanced integration of receptive and generative modes that characterizes the most extraordinary wealth creators throughout history. This integration doesn't position these approaches as competing alternatives, but as complementary aspects of complete creative engagement, each serving essential functions at appropriate moments in the manifestation process. What's particularly liberating about this understanding is how it transforms creative pressure entirely. Rather than forcing breakthrough ideas through sheer mental effort, you learn to establish the precise internal conditions that naturally attract revolutionary concepts into your awareness. This approach eliminates creative strain, while dramatically increasing both the frequency and quality of transformational insights available for your financial evolution. If you've experienced those remarkable moments when breakthrough wealth ideas seem to arrive in your consciousness fully formed, appearing suddenly with extraordinary clarity despite not being logically derived from your existing knowledge, write in the comments, "I've received downloads from the field of infinite possibilities." Let me share with you what might be the most liberating revelation in the entire wealth creation journey. Your financial circumstances aren't random, accidental, or determined primarily by external factors, but represent the perfect mathematical reflection of your dominant mental state. This understanding transforms everything about how manifestation operates because it transfers creative power from seemingly uncontrollable external conditions to your internal state, an arena where you maintain complete authority regardless of circumstances. Consider this profound truth. The external world functions primarily as a sophisticated mirror, consistently reflecting your inner landscape with extraordinary precision. This reflection operates not based on your conscious intentions or temporary thoughts, but on your dominant mental patterns, the persistent frequencies generated by your complete mental ecosystem, including conscious desires, subconscious programming, emotional habits, belief structures, and identity frameworks. These combined elements create the energetic signature that the universe faithfully reflects back through your financial experiences. This mirroring mechanism explains why affirmations or visualizations often produce minimal, sustainable results, despite sincere effort. Those approaches address only the surface level of consciousness while leaving deeper, contradictory patterns intact. The universe responds not to isolated positive thoughts, but to your complete vibrational output, which includes both conscious intentions and subconscious programming. When these dimensions conflict, the latter typically prevails due to its greater neurological entrenchment and emotional charge. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that your financial circumstances cannot improve significantly or permanently until your internal state shifts first. This sequencing is non-negotiable in the authentic science of wealth creation. External conditions always follow consciousness rather than creating it, a principle that directly contradicts conventional wisdom, suggesting improved financial circumstances will eventually generate prosperity consciousness. This reversed understanding explains why tactical approaches alone consistently fail to produce lasting transformation. Behind the scenes of this mirroring process operates a fascinating universal law. Resonance determines attraction. Your consciousness generates specific electromagnetic frequencies that naturally attract experiences, circumstances, and opportunities vibrating at matching frequencies while repelling those operating at incompatible vibrations. This mechanism functions continuously and automatically, translating your dominant mental state into corresponding material manifestations with unfailing accuracy. Now, I want to explore the most fundamental transformation in the entire prosperity journey: the shift from scarcity to abundance consciousness. This evolution represents far more than positive thinking or optimistic perspective. It constitutes a complete dimensional shift in how you perceive and engage with reality itself, a profound recalibration that alters everything about your relationship with wealth creation. What makes this understanding particularly revolutionary is recognizing that wealth isn't something you pursue, chase, or convince others to provide. It represents something you awaken from within by transforming your perception from limitation to unlimited possibility. This awakening doesn't deny practical realities, but transcends them by accessing the causal dimension where all manifestation originates before appearing in physical form. Consider how scarcity consciousness functions. It perceives reality through the lens of limitation, constantly scanning for evidence of not enough while filtering out contradictory abundance evidence. This perceptual orientation automatically generates corresponding experiences regardless of external conditions because it shapes both your interpretation of circumstances and your responsive actions. Two people can encounter identical external situations, yet experience completely different realities based solely on which perceptual filter they apply to those conditions. The journey from scarcity to abundance consciousness involves systematically dissolving specific mental patterns that collectively generate limitation perception. These include comparative thinking that constantly evaluates your position relative to others, zero-sum beliefs suggesting someone must lose for you to gain, past future orientation that ignores present abundance while remembering previous lack or projecting future scarcity, and conditional thinking that places prerequisites on prosperity rather than recognizing its inherent nature. Behind this transformation lies a profound understanding. Abundance represents the natural state of the universe rather than exceptional condition requiring justification. Look at how nature itself operates with extraordinary generosity, multiplying single seeds into thousands, creating vast ecosystems of interdependent abundance, demonstrating unlimited creative expression at every level of manifestation. This natural prosperity becomes your reference point, rather than artificial scarcity generated through comparative perception or inherited limitation beliefs. The shift occurs through specific practices designed to rewire your default perception from scarcity to abundance orientation. These include deliberate attention training that consciously registers prosperity evidence while releasing automatic scarcity scanning, language pattern transformation that systematically eliminates lack-based expressions while adopting abundance terminology, visualization processes that establish new neural pathways associated with expanded possibility, and identity-level reprogramming that fundamentally alters your self-concept regarding prosperity. What's particularly fascinating about this evolution is how it transforms your relationship with evidence entirely. Scarcity consciousness demands proof before belief, requiring external confirmation before internal acceptance. Abundance consciousness reverses this sequence completely, establishing internal certainty first, while recognizing that external evidence follows this alignment rather than creating it. This understanding explains why those who create extraordinary prosperity often maintain unwavering abundance consciousness, despite temporary external conditions suggesting limitation. If you've begun experiencing moments when your perception spontaneously shifts from seeing limitations to recognizing unlimited possibilities, even before external circumstances have changed, write in the comments, "My abundance perception is awakening." Have you considered the profound significance of why you're encountering these wealth principles at this precise moment in your life? There's something extraordinary happening behind the scenes of your financial journey, a cosmic orchestration far more deliberate than mere coincidence. Your resonance with these concepts isn't random, but indicates you've reached a crucial evolutionary threshold in your financial consciousness. This understanding arrives precisely when you're neurologically, emotionally, and spiritually prepared to implement it at the deepest level. Consider this fascinating pattern observable throughout human development. Transformational knowledge consistently appears when the recipient has evolved to the exact frequency necessary for genuine integration rather than merely intellectual comprehension. This explains why you might have encountered similar concepts previously, yet experienced minimal impact, while today these same principles create profound resonance that feels almost like remembering something you've always known rather than learning something entirely new. Your presence here represents far more than casual interest or coincidental discovery. It reflects a precise alignment between your evolving consciousness and these universal principles, a synchronicity orchestrated with remarkable precision by the intelligence guiding your development. The fact that these concepts create such deep recognition within you provides compelling evidence that you've reached the necessary threshold for genuine transformation rather than temporary inspiration. Behind the scenes of this alignment lies a fascinating phenomenon. Your consciousness has been preparing for this revelation through every financial experience you've ever encountered, both challenging and supportive. Each circumstance, even those that appeared as obstacles or setbacks, served as essential preparation, developing specific capacities required for the transformation now available to you. Nothing in your financial journey happened accidentally or mistakenly, but unfolded according to perfect intelligence guiding your evolution. What makes this moment particularly Significant is how it represents the perfect convergence of your readiness and these revelations. Had you encountered this understanding earlier, certain essential foundations might have been missing, preventing full integration. Had it arrived later, unnecessary struggle might have continued beyond its developmental purpose. The timing of this connection reflects perfect orchestration rather than random exposure. Now, I want to share something that might initially seem counterintuitive, yet contains profound liberation. This moment marks not the conclusion, but the beginning of your journey toward financial mastery. Rather than representing a destination, these principles constitute a doorway, opening into entirely new dimensions of prosperity consciousness that will continue unfolding throughout your remaining lifetime. The most extraordinary aspect of this journey involves the nature of genuine mastery, not as static achievement, but as continuous evolution without ultimate completion. Each level of prosperity consciousness you establish creates the foundation for the next expansion, each breakthrough revealing new possibilities previously invisible from lower awareness. This progressive unfoldment explains why the wealthiest individuals consistently describe their journey as ongoing exploration rather than completed destination. Consider this revelation. The principles you've discovered will continue revealing deeper dimensions as you apply them in your daily experience. Like facets of an infinite gem, each implementation exposes new aspects invisible during initial exposure. This explains why certain wealth creators return to identical principles repeatedly throughout their journey, each engagement revealing entirely new dimensions despite superficially familiar concepts. The beginning nature of this journey explains why transformation occurs through implementation rather than merely accumulating additional knowledge. Unlike intellectual understanding that expands primarily through new information, prosperity consciousness evolves through applied experience, the consistent translation of principles into lived practice. This experiential integration creates neurological, emotional, and energetic foundations impossible through conceptual exposure alone. Behind this developmental journey operates a fascinating principle. Evolution occurs through spiral progression rather than linear advancement. You'll repeatedly encounter familiar concepts at progressively higher levels of understanding, each revolution revealing entirely new dimensions invisible during previous exposures. This spiral nature explains why certain prosperity principles might initially seem simple, yet contain infinite depth, accessible only through progressive implementation rather than immediate comprehension. The journey beginning now involves systematic integration of these principles into your daily consciousness, rather than relegating them to occasional consideration. This consistent implementation gradually transforms theoretical understanding into default perception, the automatic lens through which you naturally interpret and engage with financial reality. This integration doesn't require strained effort, but unfolds naturally through deliberate attention, consistent practice, and genuine curiosity. What makes this developmental journey particularly remarkable is how it transforms your relationship with financial challenges entirely. Rather than interpreting difficulties as failures or evidence that principles aren't working, you recognize them as sophisticated feedback, revealing exactly where continued evolution remains necessary. This perspective transforms frustration into fascination as you engage with obstacles as evolutionary catalysts rather than unfortunate impediments. If you're beginning to sense that your encounter with these prosperity principles represents not random chance, but precisely orchestrated alignment with your evolving consciousness, write in the comments, "This knowledge has found me at the perfect moment." If you've made it to this point in our journey together, something profound has already shifted within you. You've absorbed these concepts not just intellectually, but at a deeper level where genuine transformation begins. The fact that you've stayed engaged through this entire exploration tells me you're genuinely ready to apply this understanding rather than simply consuming more information. This channel exists specifically for people like you, those who recognize that creating wealth requires more than surface-level tactics and quick fixes. Every video I create is designed to take you deeper into these principles, to provide you with tools and understandings that most people never encounter in their lifetime. If this resonated with you, subscribing means you'll be part of this ongoing exploration of how consciousness creates reality in practical, measurable ways. The journey we've begun today continues in each new video, building a comprehensive framework for genuine financial transformation. Write in the comments, "This message was meant for me," if you feel like this information found you at exactly the right moment in your journey. I read every comment, and it helps me understand who's truly ready for this level of transformation. If our time together created that sense of recognition, that feeling of finally hearing someone explain what you've intuitively known was possible, hitting that like button lets me know this connection was real. It's your way of acknowledging that something valuable was exchanged here. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into the specific techniques for programming your subconscious mind to automatically attract the opportunities you need. It's the natural next step for everything we've explored today. Click and continue with me over there. Your transformation is just getting started.